What is going on? We are back. Black. We are back in black. Had a little glitch. Oh, man. My bad. Shout out to everybody out there at the Court Plantation doing what you need to do to survive. Roll call. Shout out to everybody out there. Hey, shout out to homegirl Shawnee, Philly in the building, Erica, Florida, aka Florida in the building. Shout out to everybody in Arizona, Miss Tanya Latanya. Hey, I see y'all. Shout out to y'all. Shout out to everybody in Las Vegas, Nevada. The homegirl Jerica, all my siblings handling business working. We gotta go to work. Shit, what the fuck we gonna do? We have to go to work. We don't have no choice. So shout out to everybody out there. Shout out to my brothers. Dave for No Compromise, Joja in the building, James Youngblood, Texas is definitely in the building. And shout out to the whole girl Melina in North Carolina, aka North Kakalaka. Man, what is happening today, man? Did Jesus come back? Oh, damn. You mean he didn't? Now all that abashando and going to church just in case he's real. So shout out to everybody out there. If you're in Sunday school or teaching and all that shit, then shout out to you. Look, I done seen some crazy shit at church. I remember a bitch at the church had the nerve to tell everybody to get right with God. But this bitch was giving my brother some pussy. But want to tell everybody to get right with God. Oh man, I done seen it all in church. But shout out to all my black Christians, brethren and sister, and shout out to y'all. Shout out to the homegirl Nuke and Sister Cobweb, aka Roxanne, aka Sister Cobweb. Nuke, man, Nuke is busy. She got time to be doing no punk ass podcast shit. Nuke is busy. And if she do a podcast, it's gonna be better than this bullshit. Nah, I'll fuck with y'all. But anyway, Nuke is an OG member. No, I don't know. Hey man, I'm glad y'all here, man. We got a great one today. Oh yes, we got a great one. Harvey Weinstein, the complexion for protection. We gonna get into it today. Let's get it. Man. So they've overturned his conviction. Now, so funny how Bill Cosby, R. Kelly, the Dominant Society used foundational black Americans, turned on Bill Cosby, turned on R. Kelly, Cuba Gooding Jr., Marcellus Wiley, all these foundational black Americans that are under attack. But for some sort of reason, Harvey Weinstein's conviction gets overturned. I don't see nobody talking about it. It's called order out of chaos. You got all these tornadoes and all this weather shit going on. You got the Joe Biden shit going on. Oh, well, we'll just sneak this in and overturn it. Look, it's order out of chaos. So hopefully I got some footage to see what people are talking about. Let's see what the victims say about Harvey Weinstein's conviction getting overturned.
It does make me even more happy.
Here, let's see. We're gonna cut this down and we're gonna see what the fuck they talking about.
That we fought the good fight here in California and that he has 16 years to spend here in prison in California.
So there are some question marks, though, as to whether his conviction that he is in prison for at the moment could then face the same legal process as just happened, though. Do you fear what's going to happen next with this, Lisette?
Well, I think as you heard Gloria Allred say, and she represented me actually when I first came forward in 2017.
And Gloria Allred ain't shit either, but go ahead.
The system, it's state by state, so it's different here in California. And I will say that the DA here, when we were working on this case, was very aware of this potential problem. So I do think that it is different here. That being said, of course, I do think they will try to appeal. It does make me...
All right, we got that one. Let's see if we can find another Let's see. We're going to see how this happened.
New York's highest court has overturned Harvey Weinstein's 2020 rape.
Now remember, they was fucking with Bill Cosby. They was fucking with R. Kelly. They still fucking with R. Kelly and drained him of all his resources and everything. But for some sort of reason, Weinstein's conviction is overturned. Why do you think that is?
Conviction, a stunning reversal in the landmark case of the Me Too movement. In a 4-3 decision, the Court of Appeals said the trial judge's decision to allow witnesses to claim Weinstein assaulted them, but not include those witnesses' allegations in the charges, precluded Weinstein from having a fair trial. Weinstein's lawyers commended the court earlier today for what they called a tremendous victory for criminal defendants.
There are some people who are very unpopular in our society, but we still have to apply the law fairly to them. And in this courthouse...
And this man been raping women. They had him on a recording just full court pressing a woman. Sit down, sit down, sit down, sit down, sit down. Y'all need to listen to that. Sit down, sit down, sit down, sit down. That's exactly what he was telling her. She was like, I don't feel comfortable. He's like, just sit down. Let me make you a drink, babe. Just relax, relax, relax. Sit down, sit down, sit down, sit down. He was doing shit like that. Shit that black folk cannot get away with.
Behind us at that trial, the law was not applied fairly to Harvey Weinstein.
Weinstein is currently being held in an upstate New York prison. For more on what this reversal means for him and why the case unfolded as it did, I'm joined by Jodi Kantor, New York Times investigative reporter who broke the story of Mr. Weinstein's sex crimes. So, Jodi, you and your colleague Megan Twohey, of course, broke that story back in 2017. No one has followed it more closely. Did today's decision surprise you?
No, this has been brewing for a long time. You know, from the start, Megan and I were never really sure how Harvey Weinstein would be treated by the criminal justice system. Because when we think of the allegations against him, there are so many. Those women could fill an entire courtroom by themselves. But a lot of them weren't eligible to stand at the center of a New York trial. A lot of the allegations were about sexual harassment, which is not a crime, or they passed the statute of limitations, or they didn't take place in New York.
But how did they pass the statute of limitation? But Bill Cosby, y'all was fucking with him the whole time. Y'all just fucking with him the whole goddamn time. And these women were lying and committing perjury on the stand.
So the New York trial was only about 2 women, both of whom had had consensual sex with Weinstein, in addition to the very upsetting acts that they described. That can be very messy for juries. So prosecutors brought in additional witnesses to sort of bolster their case, but the complaint against them was always the classic kind of criminal law complaint saying, the facts presented in that courtroom need to be relevant to the charges in the trial. And that, in fact, is the basis on which the conviction was overturned.
Well, after your initial reporting, more than 100 women came forward with similar allegations of sexual assault or harassment by Weinstein. Today, one of those survivors, actress and activist Ashley Judd, reacted to the news today.
Wow.
This today is an act of institutional betrayal.
Y'all got these white women. See, where are the other white women like Ashley Judd? Where are those women at? All the women came out in droves for Bill Cosby and R. Kelly and Cuba Gooding Jr. and all our other foundational Black American men. It was women that Bill Cosby probably didn't even know. Like, I don't know that bitch. But they came out. Oh, this person and that person and this person, that person. But for Harvey Weinstein, we can only find Ashley Judd? You mean to tell me there are no dominant society white women that he has done that to? Stop.
And our institutions betray survivors of male sexual violence. I
like the word she's using. Sexual violence, sexual deviant. Because when they framed the narrative for Bill Cosby, that's what they framed him as. Violent, sexual assault, sexual this. So stop.
Shoulder to shoulder with women who have bloody knees. Because male sexual violence may knock us down, but we get right back up.
Jodi, have you heard this similar sentiment from other survivors?
You know, I called Ashley today when I first heard the news, and I was actually the one to share it with her. And she found it disappointing and upsetting, but she was also unwavering. And she said, we know what really happened.
Exactly. You know what happened, but he has the protection because he has the complexion. That's why this is happening. That's why you're fighting each other. The dominant society is like, look at these dumb Negroes fight each other while we defend each other. See, they're going to defend each other in public and then fight in private. See, we fight in public and then have the nerve to want to defend each other in private. No, that's not how it works. You got to defend each other in public and fight in private. This is what the dominant society does. Didn't the most honorable Elijah Muhammad say, study the white man? Didn't he say that in the fall of America? You better study the white man because the congressmen and all these other people, they ain't going to help you. They are not going to help you.
And yes, I've heard similar sentiments from Weinstein's alleged victims today. And I think a special upset for the women who stood up and went through the difficulty of a criminal trial and provided that extra testimony, which the court has now wiped away. But interestingly, I should tell you, some of the strongest objections were from some of the appellate judges. This was a very split group of judges who had a very painful debate. The majority only won by 1 vote, and some of the judges who were in the minority basically protested and said, "What are you doing? You're naive.
Remember, these are dominant society people presiding over cases of other dominant society people with wealth. Remember that.
Disregarding the progress we've made in learning how to prosecute sex crimes."
Jody, what does this mean for Weinstein himself? As we mentioned, he's still imprisoned in upstate New York. What do we know about his health and about his future based on this decision?
Well, he is not a free man because remember, he was also convicted in Los Angeles. So soon he's going to be moved to California to start serving out that sentence. Meanwhile, that conviction is being appealed by his lawyers next month on the same basis that the New York case was overturned. They're going to complain about these additional witnesses. Whether it will matter, I don't know. California law is a little clearer and firmer on the use of those witnesses, but I should tell you that the lawyer litigating that case is the same attorney who was able to get Bill Cosby's conviction thrown out.
You see how she broke up Bill Cosby. This is the first time I watched this, but what does Bill Cosby have to do with this? Of course, we're going to bring a nigga into it. Well, you know, the nigga got off. Stop. But those bitches were committing perjury. Janet Dickinson, just up there lying. So when did you meet Bill Cosby? Oh, I met him once he spun off on A Different World. Okay, well, Bill Cosby didn't even know you did. Okay, no, I met him in the 70s. Okay, well, where did you meet him at the 70s? Oh, I met him in Alabama. Bill Cosby never stayed in Alabama. Oh, okay, I forgot. I met him in California. Where did you meet him in California? I forgot, but I met him and he put something in my drink and when I woke up, my panties was off. Okay, so what day was that? I don't even remember. Okay, well, was it Bill Cosby? Yeah, I remember Bill Cosby. How do you know it? Oh, I forgot. Exactly. This is the type of shit that they was doing during the Bill Cosby fiasco. That's why I'm like, this shit is Play-Doh, man. It's not even realistic.
Jody, in New York, meanwhile, the district attorney's office has said they will attempt to retry the case. In the less than minute we have left, what's the timeline ahead look like for that?
It's confusing, and it's a tough decision, I think, for them because the case is so culturally important and means so much to so many people that to leave it alone, to let it stand here would be very unsatisfying. But to try to go back to the beginning and do this again and get those women to tell those painful stories in court, I'm not exactly sure what's going to be possible.
That is New York Times investigative reporter Jody Cantor, who broke the story of Harvey Weinstein's sex crimes back in 2017. Jody, thank you for joining us today.
Let's cut the music back on so we can get a discussion. Okay, so what do y'all think? Okay, so look, this is what I think. Remember I told you at the Court Plantation, when you go to Human Resources, it's just white people investigating other white people? This is another case of that. This is why we got to be on the same team, same code. We got to look at each other differently, not through the eyes of the dominant society, but through our eyes of intrinsic value in each other and ourselves. But it starts at home first. It starts with family. That's why I shout out to my brother Dave for No Compromise and James Youngblood. I remember we did a Twitter space about that too. Man, we ain't did a Twitter space in a long time, but we did that about black families, you know, black churches, how it relates to black families and how it relates to building a good family structure and using good parenting concepts. You know what I mean? You know, a lot of times in black families, we tend to just go to church and let God fix it. And it's like, okay, sometimes we got to have God give us discernment, give us critical thinking skill sets so we can learn how to make better decisions for our family. You know what I mean? And I think when we are at church or anywhere else, you need to start having these conversations about the system of racism, white supremacy, and how to establish a system of justice, meaning the racial group that needs the most constructive help gets the most constructive help. No four-wall effect. That's one thing I stand firm on. Like, I don't want to get together with a whole bunch of family members and friends and we just bitch and complain about the system, but we don't come up with solutions. We're just bitching and complaining about how fucked up it is. We know how fucked up it is. Now, what do we do to replace the system? I'm talking about just us. Any racial group that you're around. This is not about browbeating them about our struggle. This is about when a person comes to you and says, what do you think about the Israel and Palestine thing? You say, I'm trying to establish a system of justice. Well, what does that mean? I'm trying to replace the system of racism and white supremacy. That's all that I'm focused on. But what do you think about I said, I'm focused on replacing the system of racism and white supremacy and establishing a system of justice. Well, what does that mean? The racial group that needs the most constructive help receives the most constructive help. But what about Israel? That's not my fight, and I'm worried about racism and white supremacy in the United States of America Incorporated. That's what I'm worried about. Once you start saying that, people that are around you will be like, oh, okay, I get it. And they'll either stay around and be like, nah, that makes sense, or they don't. You don't have to go into this long drawn out of everything that's been done to us, because a lot of dominant society people are already aware of that and they don't care, and a lot of them are aware of it, and sometimes they do show interest. But even if they show interest, don't go out of your way to explain. Refer them some books. See, I don't do that. I don't go out of my way and start explaining shit to people. I just refer them to some books. Like I told you that time I was at the 24-hour fitness gym and this lady was talking about the LGBTQ with one of the OGs that be up there. And when he saw me walk in, he was like, oh, there we go. Yeah, Warren G, get her, man, get her. And we had a great discussion. I said, it's not that I disagree with what my brother's saying. My brother's basically saying, I feel like they are shoving the LGBTQ LMNOP movement down black people's throat to the point where even if you oppose it, you become some type of imminent threat, or you're putting their movement in danger, or you're homophobic, or any of those things. And that's the wrong narrative or image to kind of paint towards black folk, because we have our own struggles that we have to deal with. And she was like, what do you mean? And I said, for instance, the system of racism and white supremacy. That's the biggest thing that we have to deal with in this country. And she was like, and what do you mean? I was like, in terms of this, you know, I know people get tired of talking about slavery, but you know, our white brothers and sisters that are from the Jewish community, the white Jewish community, what has happened to them, that's tragic. That's an atrocity. And that took place in Europe. But we still recognize that and we feel bad and shamed, you know, by what was done to our white brothers and sisters that are part of the Jewish community and Jewish faith. That was just outright wrong. And that was tragic, and it was a travesty, and it was just horrible what they did to our Jewish white brothers and sisters. I said, that just was out of line. She's like, yeah, I agree. I said, so if we're going to show that same respect to them, why doesn't that same respect get shown to black Americans? Everybody treats slavery like that was 800 years ago. I said in the early 1900s, in the antebellum period, that was in the 1800s, slavery was still alive and well. They were still hanging people, castrating black men, doing all kinds of stuff to black women and children. I've read too many books about that. So why is it when we talk about that, we got to overlook that, but we got to make sure we give so much homage and respect to our white brothers and sisters that are a part of the Jewish community? I said, we just want the same thing in return. So when my brother talks about how they're shoving it down our throats, I feel like that's just a bigger agenda and a distraction. And it's called order out of chaos. I said this then, it was like 2 years ago. She was like, what do you mean? I was like, it's order out of chaos. I said, think about it like this. If they can shove all types of belief systems down Black Americans' throats, right? Then it could distract from what is really owed to Black Americans. And it isn't just free education. It is land, and it is wealth, and it is resources that are owed. This is what I mean by replacing that system of racism and white supremacy and establishing a system of justice. If we built the country from slavery, whether people want to admit it or not, there's too many books that have been written by the dominant society that talks in detail about what Black people have done for this country. Why is it that gets ignored, but everything else y'all want to shove down our throat? And she was like, no, I can understand that. I can understand that. And I said, this is not about us being homophobic or being divisive or being anti this or no, this is about the United States of America in most times being anti-Black until it suits them. Y'all want to shove the LGBTQ community down our throats. I don't see y'all shoving it down the Asian community's throats. When I drive up and down our Asian communities within Las Vegas, Nevada, I don't see no rainbow pride or none of that shit in their community. When you go to the Latino community, I don't see any of that shit. I don't see rainbows, stars, quasars, none of that bullshit. I see law offices, tax offices. That's what I see. Immigration lawyer offices. That's what I see. When I go to Chinatown, I see eateries, dentists, doctors, businesses. But when it comes to Black folk, y'all want to shove the LGBTQ community down our throat. Or y'all want to shove Joe Biden down our throat. Y'all want to shove everything, and y'all want to serve us, on a silver platter, everything that's not good for us. You serve it to us on a silver platter. And I said, not you, but what I'm saying is society. But the things that we need, we have to go looking for and say, hey, but what about this? And then when we say, hey, what about this? It becomes benign neglect. And she was like, what do you mean? I said, in terms of this. If we know for a fact slaves built this country, whether you got them from Africa or they were already here, isn't there a debt that needs to be paid? And you cannot say a debt of free education. And she was like, well, what's wrong with free education? I said, let me tell you something. If I had you enslaved for so many amounts of years and I say, hey, after that, I'm going to give you free education so you can still come work for me. How does that sound? After you were already enslaved. She was like, that doesn't, exactly. So that's why my brother gets so wound up and upset, because this is what's taking place across the United States of America Incorporated. You're not giving, y'all treat, a lot of the times we get treated like we don't know what's good for us. Like, that's what it is. She was like, yeah, I can see that too. I was like, yeah. I said, when a person like Joe Biden can go on a platform and say, if you don't vote for me, then you're not Black, that's basically telling Black folk, I know what's good for you. You don't know what's good for you. So these are the things that we got to look at. And while all this is going on, people like Harvey Weinstein, a sexual predator, a sexual deviant who has committed sexual crimes against humanity, he's getting things overturned. Convictions overturned while they publicly humiliated and assassinated Bill Cosby's character and tried to drain him, drive his resources so they can get that property and start drilling oil on it. This is what y'all do. So I don't know why we acting like this isn't what y'all do. We got to remember that. This is exactly why I say what I say about, hey man, you gotta wake up. While y'all all piling on Diddy, everybody wanna pile on Diddy, you better remember, it's more than just Diddy. I'm gonna say it again. While everybody's piling on Diddy or Puff Daddy or Sean Puffy Combs or whatever y'all wanna call him, it is more than just him that they are looking at, and they are going to call to the floor in a matter of moments. Watch, you'll see. And then all those people that were making fun of Diddy and piling on and fuck him and he did all that stuff. See, they know that we're not going to stand together because they know we are a disaggregate people. They know that. They know that. I was watching, I went to go watch Civil War, which it was okay. It wasn't all that. But there was a scene in there where basically these people were trying to get somewhere. And, you know, during the Civil War, this dude basically was killing motherfuckers. And the first 2 people he shot and killed was some Asian people. He said, "What are you?" And they were all scared. He was like, "What are you?" He's like, "Oh, I'm from such. Bang, killed him. "Oh, you're not an American? Done. "Oh, what side are you from?" "Okay, done." And I said, it's going to get back to that. Because let me tell you something. Dominant society going to get tired of letting all these illegal immigrants in here coming in here and turning their nose up. Then they going to start looking at niggas like, damn, shit, we just been better when it was just niggas in this country and not everybody else. And let me tell you, it's going to get back to that, whether you like it or not. That's why it's like, well, what do you mean? Well, I mean it like this. You can only allow so many people to come over here illegally for so long where people are going to start being like, you know what? This is bullshit. This is what I tell my people all the time. Why is it we competing with immigrants for jobs? And we built this country for free without repayment. Ain't that crazy? Go to California. The Latino community runs California. The infrastructure, the corporate jobs, all that. Go to Las Vegas, Nevada. It started to be the same way. That's why Dr. Claude Anderson says, compete with what? We don't have nothing to compete with unless you got money. And most black folk that have a little bit of money ain't trying to give up none of their shit for nobody. So you got to learn how to go out there and compete with what the fuck you have. That's why you better remember, racism is a team sport, as Dr. Claude Anderson so eloquently says over and over again. It is a team sport. It's a fucking team sport. And every now and again, you have a dominant society person that's going to give you the game and tell you like, look, don't fuck with that. Look, watch this. Look, woo, woo, woo. You want whatever other racial group wants to aid you in your fight to replace the system of racism, white supremacy, and establish a system of justice. They're not going to be a Tim Wise. They're going to be a person that's going to really be doing things. Whether it's at the corporate plantation, whether it's putting black folk on, that's what they're going to be doing. They're not going to be sitting up there peddling their books and saying speeches about shit you already know. When a white person comes to you talking about racism, white supremacy, and trying to tell you shit that you already know, stop them and say, I already know that. I just want to know what you're going to do to replace that system. You helping people with jobs, you putting people on, you sharing your resources, or as Dr. Francis Quest Welsing tells us, are you telling us what's being said when we're not in the room? And I am done. Y'all enjoy y'all day. Guilty, nigga. I'm out. Peace.